to you because we're talking about the Seahawks. You played for Pete Carroll for a minute, and you said you absolutely loved playing for him because he made it feel like even for the dog days of August practices that you just want to go out there and run through a wall. He also said Drew Lock's their guy, same guy who also said they're not going to trade Russ Wilson earlier this offseason. So they draft Charles Cross from that air raid scheme, the offensive tackle. They draft Abe Lucas from the air raid scheme, also an offensive tackle. And they get Ken Walker. How comfortable should we feel about what this offense is going to look like? And do you believe Pete Carroll when he says that Drew Lock is going to be their guy going forward?
It's hard to believe that right now. I think this situation changes dramatically in one of two ways. Either Jimmy Garoppolo's shoulder gets healthy and the Seahawks are willing to give up something that even within the division, the 49ers are willing to say, okay, we'd rather move on than just outright release him and let him pick where he wants to go, or this may happen anyway. So that's one scenario. And Baker Mayfield, that's another one. They can say that they're not going to trade for him. Okay. As long as the Browns release him, though. That would be a spot if I'm Baker Mayfield and I want to get back on the field. He easily would be the best quarterback on that roster. So that would be one of the destinations that I'd look at. The only problem is it's a really competitive division. Their offensive line has had issues. He came from playing behind one of the best in Cleveland. And as far as wide receivers outside of DK Metcalf, there's not quite as many options. And you're going to run the football a lot, something that I don't know if he was a fan of or not during the Kevin Stefanski era so far, but it seems like they like to run the football a lot in Cleveland. So that's probably going to be the same thing they're doing in Seattle. Either way, it's hard to believe they're going to go into the season with Drew Lock. If that's the case, someone needs to start to kind of create an allegation about tanking because they must be trying to position for one of these top-round quarterbacks in next year's draft, whether that's Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, or Tyler Van Dyke.
Well, I think Brady just made a great point here, and it is that Pete Carroll is the king of semantics. When he says, hey, we're not going to trade for a quarterback, a veteran quarterback, that doesn't mean they're not going to sign one. And as Brady alluded to, if Baker Mayfield gets released or Jimmy Garoppolo gets released, you're not trading for a quarterback. You're just going out and signing them, and you're signing them at a price you might be willing to pay because you're not going to pay Baker Mayfield $18 million. You're not going to pay Jimmy Garoppolo $25 million. That being said, if neither of those teams are willing to cut their quarterbacks and you have to get them through a trade, I wouldn't be totally shocked if Pete Carroll sticks to his guns and moves forward with Drew Lock at least for this season. Because look, we know what Pete Carroll loves to do more than any other coach in the NFL right now, and that is run the football. He's probably got a game plan ready that calls for 71 runs a game. He's not even going to let Drew Lock throw the ball, so it's not going to matter who the quarterback is. This is going to be Pete Carroll's dream season. So I won't be surprised at all if Drew Lock does end up starting at least this season, and then you find someone else next offseason.
Hey, Brady, quick question about Pete Carroll and Baker Mayfield. Let's say he gets cut or traded. He's a big personality. Obviously, we're not as welcome in Cleveland. Pete Carroll's actually really good at taking on guys who perhaps had trouble elsewhere. How do you think that fits, Baker in that locker room with Pete Carroll sort of overseeing it all?
Well, I can tell you this much. I know John Schneider, the general manager, would love Baker Mayfield's personality because John Schneider's kind of got that fiery personality to him. And then Pete Carroll just knows how to play to the strengths of a player. And I think try to, work away from those weaknesses or help him raise that level of it. So whatever perceived weaknesses or whatever perceived strengths they feel like Baker Mayfield has, trust me, they'll play to those. And if they feel like he's a fiery guy and they love seeing that in him and it fires up the team, they will play into that very much. It's very much a player-led locker room in Seattle. And I think Baker would probably love that environment just from at least the one that he was previously in, given the fact that some of the stuff that's come out of late is issues with Odell Beckham, maybe some other players and how they've talked about him. Whatever the case may be, Seattle's one of those where I think they'd be welcome to playing with him and excited about having him.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.